Yes, hello and welcome to the September 2017 IrisBG webinar with Havard from IrisBG and Greg from Dawes Arboretum.
Hello.
Hello. And we have we have a very important guest, and but not so many guests today. We have not announced, and I suppose people are packing their bags if they're on the east coast of America, southeast coast. Or people are busy with other things. However, we will still, as we have already done, have something to talk about. So one thing we want to talk about today is reorganizing beds, because that's something that comes up regularly. People wonder how you deal with that. So going to do that in a more structured way today with an example. It's also one topic that I came up with now that some people, so with the trial version, you will find that when you record propagations, whether you should record that as separate types of items or not. I think that's also a nice little sort of spin-off topic. And then Greg and Jennifer here, you had a question with labeling. I'm not sure if you want to talk about that here or not, but what do you think? Should we take that topic first, maybe, Greg?
Yeah, sure. We can go over exporting some accession information right from Iris to print, to print labels in various formats and different machinery.
Yep. So typically, you produce the labels from the item management.
Right.
That's a normal approach.
Right. You can print one, if you just want one label, you can do it right from the accession screen just by printing the little, or just by the little, print area in the label box. But that'll just give you the one label for the one accession. But if you're doing multiples, you should mark them as needing labels, and then you can search for those in item management and print them all together.
Yep. And a top tip, if you're testing a label, don't test it on a dead plant. That doesn't work. Then classic mistake. This one is alive, and then here, if on the label type down here, you will see that you have a button to open up, and then here you can then export a label spreadsheet of or a CSV file or whatever, or you can open it up in a Word template.
That's if you've set up that report with a working merge document to actually produce that particular document.
Yeah. So we can go one step back and say, so how do you set up your labels? So when you get the system, or when you look at the trial version, you will see that under definitions, going all the way down here to label types, you will see here that there are about 7 or 8 labels defined. Some of them are without a template file, so they will always just produce a sort of, so if you click view, or if you just export it, it will always produce, in this case, a text file, so that's a tab separated file. And if you attach the template file, you will then, the system will then do a mail merge. It typically be a document, Word template. So these template files, that's another, going one step back again, they, if you're going to make your own templates, you could put them in the top custom templates part here. So that so when you look at the instructions and older discussions about this, you will see that people say that the templates should be located on your custom templates folder on the computer. But from late last year, you can then start putting them here instead, which makes it much easier.
Yeah, I was one that was very happy with that, because we have various users and we had to keep the same documents on each person's PC individually to have the same documents. And this way, the documents are all stored in the database, so everybody is accessing the same file, which makes it much nicer.
But if you want to, sorry, Jennifer.
I'm just curious, Greg, do you have, individual curators or horticulturists who are going in and printing their own labels, or do you do all of that yourself? I'm just curious from us.
Yeah, I do most of it. We have our propagator and one of our conservation department folks who grow plants for restoration purposes will produce. We also have a thermal transfer printer for like the stick tags and wraparound labels. So I have a format for that, and especially when I was first setting up Iris, I went through about 5 or 6 different iterations of that tag until I got it the way that I was comfortable with. And trying to keep that updated on these different PCs was difficult. So now I can make one update to the document, load it up in custom templates, or I'm on the database, stored on the database, and everybody has access to that new file.
Okay.
Yeah. So you see with the system where the software installs itself, all the base templates that are included you will find them here. So if you want to make your own template, you might want to copy some of these, or if you try the ones that are included and see that one you like, you can just copy one of these onto somewhere else where you can actually change it, and then you can then slip it into the. I think I have one here I made before. Yeah, here's one I made before. So I can now add it to my system here instead. I'll show you how that looks. This particular one. Hold on. Yeah, it comes up read only, so it looks a bit weird. But if I do print clear, so this is with a tag thing and everything. So I've designed a label for a Gravograph printer or something, and then if I want to add it
there inside those double brackets are the merge text that comes from, because what the system does is it makes a spreadsheet, an Excel file, and then it merges that data with the Word document to put the text where you want it on the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's a video tutorial that goes into detail on how to sort of do that. Okay. But anyway, it's sort of it's a classic mail merge in Word. So that's really the skill set you need to be able to do this. So you see here, I want family here, I want taxon distribution, and then the accession number up here, and then the taxon name with the tagged one is a bit specific in that it allows you to italicize part of the name. I'll show you how that works. Okay, so if I want to add this now to my since I have it here, I can then go into this part and add the template file, and then click here. And now I'm just opening up the custom templates, where I had it.
Right.
Just sort of OK, and then open it in, and then save. And I hope that works. Yeah, good.
If you want to add comments, you can have some text to tell yourself what that one, what that one does. Okay. Yeah, why it's different than the others, if the name isn't really specific enough.
Right.
Or this one works and this one doesn't.
Exactly. So now, and it's one important distinction is sometimes you have DOC and sometimes a DOCX. So keep an eye on that. You might not see that. So if I now go to introduce one new one here, I can do that, or I'm just gonna, I'll introduce a new one. So plus, so call it so item label, and then we call it G1 Gravograph label. And I'm just going to allow all the fields just for simplicity. Now I'm just going to. So you see, I've used the same template file name as I had. And then I have a new one here. Now it's alphabetized, so here it is. So if I don't tell it which fields I want, I will get all the fields, which is quite handy in that it doesn't sort of have a great impact on performance. But if you want to export it to a spreadsheet or something, you may want to sort of slim it down so you only get the data you want.
Yeah, it can be quite overwhelming if it goes on for 30 or 40 columns.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So what I do typically is if I'm creating a new report and I'm not sure which fields I want, I will create a spreadsheet with all the fields and then go through it manually and delete all the fields that I don't want. And then with that open on my screen, I can then go back and then pick which of those fields I wanted to export.
Okay.
So because I can see the data in the export, so I know exactly which fields I wanted.
Okay, so if I want to test this now, I can do that in this first screen which we saw. I go back to my accession here, and then I can just go down here. And then even though this is set up to use label M1, I can just change that to my gravigraph there, and then do view. And then let's see if it works.
Yep.
It's a bit slow because it, that also brings up this curly braces that is used so that the system, you can use this plugin to fix italicization. I should have brought, so now you get the name italicized. I should show you if I get one with a subspecies or something, then I'll show you an example of that quickly.
Yeah, because if it has a cultivar or the word variety, subspecies, something like that, it'll skip those. It skips that text because that's not supposed to be italicized.
This one is a good example. So if I now do gravigraph on that and view, and you see here now, if I now use this plugin, this is now correctly printed according to the code.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
And then once I get my list of labels on screen like this, this is also when you can edit it. Perhaps you want the subspecies to be on the next line, so you could just put a return right there. But see, that makes it too long. Maybe you could, like drop the font a notch, just so that it all fits. But you can make, you can fine tune it so that everything fits exactly where you want it. Looks like it makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't like things hanging off like, different lines that don't seem to be attached to anything else. So.
Right. Yeah. I agree. Okay. Great.
Okay. So, and then you will eventually produce them from here.
Yeah, say you were back in accessions and you mark that record as needs label isn't okay. You make that not okay, or you can add your own needs in there.
Maybe we should do that as well straight away now, since we're in here. I'm just going to do that. So go to code lists.
Code lists, yeah.
And label status, I think, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So see, need label.
Type it in.
New label, like that.
Yeah.
So we could have a third one, I'm not sure. So that could be a handy one,
I mean, unknown, yeah, UNK, whatever,
Whatever. So put like that. So if I now go back, you can see now that if I now say, okay, I want need new label. Yeah.
And since you edited that one, any that were previously marked as not okay will now be listed as need label.
Yep.
But since you added not sure, there's nothing marked as that yet because that was new to the system.
Mm-hmm. We had there was a discussion, just a spin-off, but there was a discussion whether people want to keep track of who is actually ordering the labels, because there are many people, asking for labels. So one approach might be worth considering is to hold on, I'm just going back here, is to say you could have something like label So let's call it Greg.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but if you have like 30 different people, that's going to become unwieldy.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
but if you like 5 or 6 or 3 or 4, it might work. Anyway,
Yeah.
I just wanted to flag it for those who are listening retrospectively. That might be a way to deal with, if there's a small team. But if it's a huge team, then we're looking into sort of dealing with that a bit more streamlined.
Yeah, we've talked about this in the past too. But for something like that, you could use a list under events to keep a list of labels for a particular person.
Yeah.
But that's a whole, different subject.
Right. Okay.
So now we have a need label, good, and then so if we then go back to our label item management, you will then typically search for everybody that has ordered a label of a given type. Let's say we just
see all things that need labels of whatever type.
Yeah.
What that would be.
So in the trial database, you see there's not that many. It's 16, but of those 16, quite a few of them are dead, so they don't really need a new label.
Right.
We can agree on that.
Yeah, and by default they come up unchecked there at the left, so they won't be made.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now I can then produce a label. So say I want to do this one again, and then there's a mix here. Obviously, some of them is of one type and some of the other you see, but we don't, for the sake of example here, we'll so here we go. Here's all our labels ready to go, but we need to fix it with the with this plugin to italicize it correctly. There we go. And as we did last time, we're going to reduce the font on that one so that it looks a bit neater. Can I sort of centralize it in the cell?
Yeah, I usually set it up to so that the cell is centered.
Yeah. Table tools.
I just usually click the little plus button up at the very top left corner to highlight the entire.
Oh
yeah, but that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
and then right click on it, and then there's usually a cell properties somewhere, but I'm not seeing it there.
Maybe it's table and then go to cell. There we go, and then there we go, center. Wow.
Okay.
Hey.
Okay.
Well, we should have. So the template actually has a bug. We need to fix that to get it center for the whole layout. But
so you would take your template that you saved in the database and then modify that and save it, and then everything you run after that will be centered.
Would
do
it like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because maybe some people want more space or they have another line. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Here it is, but I'll not do that. I'll skip that now. You understand the process. Right. Okay. Yeah. So, and then we just say, great, we've printed it, everybody's happy. And then you can update to say they're all good. So we say label status is, labels have been okay.
That one is okay. And then you hit, and I would hit the, if you don't want to add a history row, like he's doing it, that it would update all the records and change history. You don't need to fill those out if you just do the correct. That'll just change them all to okay and not add history. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a sort of a difficult discussion. Some people could consider having a status called label printed, so you can see retrospectively last time the label was printed. So if you want to have a maintenance idea that, okay, label's older than 3 years or something, you might want to, or something like that. So that's also a discussion you could have with yourself or with someone. Okay, but we'll follow the Greg style here, and we'll correct without. So then I shouldn't do this either. Then.
Yeah, it's not necessary at that point.
Then I'm just going to say we're all okay, and we're not generating any history. So now they're all good.
Except for the ones that were dead.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
You can uncheck and then go through and click all the ones that are dead manually. It's a shame there isn't a way to, if you could sort them by, but it's a shame there isn't a way to select all the ones that are dead without having to click each one manually.
Yeah, I agree. It's a shame. I did a bit of a double-clicking maniac here. Let's see. So I need to then.
Yeah, but you can select all those manually, and then update all those. Yeah, that should be good. So, okay.
Feels a bit wrong to say they're okay, but okay. Anyway,
just so that it's not showing up on the list later. It's just manual cleanup. Cleanup on aisle 3.
Okay, great. Have we walked the whole sort of plank?
Walk the plank, yeah. And of course, you realize there's the 2 different types of labels. And what I do is, label type 1 is where I keep my accession tag. So I have, and if you go back to the label types, so you can mark.
Oh yeah, label types.
As to which type it is in reference to. There you go.
Okay.
You can say which is it under usage, or where's the column that tells you? I think it's under usage, isn't it?
Oh,
as to which field it shows up in.
I see. Yeah. There, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
So you can mark that type of label to only show up in label 1 or in the label 2 field. So my accession tags only show up in label 1, and my display labels only show up in label 2.
Okay.
So when you drop down the box for that label type, it only has the ones that are marked to use in that category.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's say here we only want the bedding labels are only used as number 2, for example, and the others are only used as number 1. And these we like to keep because they're handy for reference, but I don't want to use it anymore. So I'm just going to disable them, but we can then keep the setup so we know the template name and stuff.
They just won't show up in your list.
Now only 3 labels in use. So if I now go back to the accession screen, you will see that when I select here, I only get 2 choices for label type 1. I only get 1 choice for label type 2.
Okay.
Yeah, lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay.
Keeps your labels sorted as to, and that's up to your own institution as to what label type 1 should be and what label type 2 should be, and which choices you wish for those.
Okay. Yep.
Right.
Okay. We've had a few other people joining. If you have any questions, you either can use a microphone or a telephone, whether you're dialed in, or you can use the chat function. If you can't hear anything, you won't hear what I'm saying now either. But there we go. Okay, cool. Great. I will. Next thing I wanted to say. Take an example, because that's sort of something people ask, once in a while, and that is reorganizing beds, which happens in gardens regularly. So we have concocted an example here. So in this particular trial database, we have, if we go to the locations here, management, locations, we have decided that the beds that are called perennials, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're very small, so we have decided to merge them, merge 1 and 2 to become A, and 3 and 4 to become B. And then, so what we're going to do here is to merge them, and then, so basically, I'm going to rename this one A and rename this one B. And then, what do I do now? I can't just delete this one. Obviously, all the plants are related to it. You will not be allowed to delete it because there are plants in both these beds. So the next thing we're going to do now is to move all the plants in bed 2 to bed A, and all the plants in bed 4 to bed B. I'm just going to save this now. Okay. And then I'm going to go back to item management, where you can do these kind of things. So what we need to do then first is to look for all the plants in bed
2.
Thank you, Greg. Here we go. So if I search that now, I get 5 plants. And then I could just move them over to A.
Mm-hmm.
But if I now do this, I will create a history. I haven't physically moved the plants. We're just merging it. So we have to be sure what we're doing here. So the most important thing we need to do is to do this. So we're just changing it without actually logging that it has changed. So it'd be much cleaner when you look at the records. So I'll do that. You want to say something?
It'll be just like it never happened.
Exactly. Yep. And it will warn you. So you have to then take a quick, check to see that you're doing the right thing here.
Yeah. Stop and to think about it.
Yep. Okay. So now they're all moved over. However, yeah, Greg.
I was just going to say that's only the current living status. So you have history for those plants as well.
Exactly. If I just open one of them, hopefully there is some history on this. Yep. So you will see that it is now in perennial bed A, which should be called P0A or something. We should change the code as well. But it was planted originally in 2008 in number 2. So we're still keeping information incorrectly here.
Right.
So we need to deal with that as well.
Yeah, and since that bed 2 exists, you can't delete bed 2 because it's still linked to records with that information.
Exactly. So then we need to do some extra stuff here. We need to go into advanced search, and we need to do go here and look for all the plants in location perennial bed 2.
Mm-hmm.
We would want to include history, or not include history. This will only do history, historic entries.
Because we already did the current status with the first move.
So here they are. So there were a few more. So now we can update that. But again, we do the same. And now we don't have, since we did working on historic entries, we're only allowed to do this. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah, you can't add history to history.
Yeah, exactly. So now they are all fixed, the ones here. And I'm going to fix that code because that annoys me before I go on. So I'm just going to do PA and then PB, like that. Mm-hmm. And now we can delete this. We can. Should I do that? Yeah, we'll do that. So I'll just go here.
That exists in that bed.
Delete number 2. Yes.
Think about it. Yes. Okay.
Click save.
Testing.
We're done.
Yep.
Hooray. And now we're going to do this thing again.
If there were still plants in that bed, you could hit the red button, delete it. But when you hit save, it would come up with a red message at the bottom saying that it can't delete it.
Yeah. If you're doing this on the trial version, you might, just a small disclaimer here, they might be allowed to do certain things like that, but on the production version, you won't be allowed to. The trial version database is a bit more forgiving because it's test data. So,
less safe.
Yep. So let's see perennials bed 4. I'm going to sort them out. Too few.
Your update. Yeah, you put it in the search part.
Oh yeah. Hello. Thank you.
I do that all the time.
Good. There we go. There's 4 of them. We need to update the dead one as well. It is a very important part. So you need to actually clean away all references to the old bed. So perennial bed B.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, and now we're moving those over. So now they're correct. And then we need to also do the same for the historic entries. here we go. And there's again another dead here. We need to make sure we actually give that an update. And we give him perennial bed B. And then again, here we go. Da-da-da. And then we can go back here and get rid of it altogether by clicking delete, yes, and save. And then this test thing, I'm going to put that somewhere else. Yes, I'm just going to, so it comes in order after the other ones. Okay, so that's how you delete or actually merge a bed. Obviously, if some flowers or some plants, if it's more, what shall I say, organic, if the beds have been designed so that some plants are going in one bed and some in the other, then you have to do a bit more manual labor, but the process is still the same.
Yeah, and of course the other way would be to just manually search for all the plants in that bed and change them one by one. But the item management makes it much more neat and tidy and fast.
Yep. Okay. Any questions? No. Okay. We'll. The other thing I wanted to mention here was a topic that's come up recently, and that's regarding propagation entries or recording propagation. So in the trial version, when you, if I wanted to propagate this particular one, for example, I could do that in this accession, or I think you, Greg, you typically record a new accession if you start propagation of, let's say, if you started to propagate from this one, for example.
Yeah, if we take seeds or cuttings from that plant, we will make a new accession, so that the year you see under the accession field there isn't 1966. It'd be 2017.
Yeah, so we could do that. Would you then typically click repeat?
Generally I just create a new accession and then link to it under parentage, because not all fields. I mean, not all fields need to be replaced. I could. I mean, that's an option.
Okay,
it depends. I mean, if it's wild collected, you have locality and things like that you may want to repeat. Whereas a lot of your garden origin plants, it's just much faster to start with a blank accession.
Yeah, we'll do a repeat here.
Okay.
So then we get, because this was wild collected in China, and then this one. Now, provenance here, of course, is a bit more suspicious because it's not wild anymore. It's sort of wild garden origin suddenly.
Well, for
it will be.
us, if we propagate it clonally, if it's cuttings or grafts, well, not grafts so much, but if it's cuttings, we still consider it wild because it's just a copy of the parent accession.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
so
if
what
we
do you
grow
think?
it from seeds or graft it, then it's basically wild of garden origin, garden of wild origin.
Yeah. So let's say it's a cutting, just for the sake of. I have no idea how to propagate a conatum, but just.
This is all hypothetical.
Yeah. This was originally seeds anyway, so I'm getting off track here. Let's say it's seeds then. We collected new seeds, so we're changing the propagation here, and then origin. Yeah, good. So we collected seeds from a wildly collected aconitum in the garden, and then we can get rid of this item because we're going to create a new one. So we're just going to get rid of that, and then we're going to go into parentage and add this particular accession that we used. That we collected seed from.
First, before you save, go back to details and change the accession year. I mean, what I would do is I would put the current year, because it's a new accession this year of seeds from that old plant.
Yep. Collector Smith. I suppose that's also a bit.
Yeah, that was for the original seeds. That's not going to be accurate anymore.
No.
Unless you want to put Joe that works in your own institution.
Yeah. She went up to bed 42 and picked. I don't know. Okay, well, we'll keep those details for you to ponder about. So now we see we got the parentage here, so everybody could see that it's. And then when it comes to the propagation part, so that I'm just going to first use what is, sorry for clicking a lot here. So typically you might follow this approach where you say in the nursery, and then you go to status, and you see here in the trial version you have a couple of propagation status, preparing propagation, sown, potted, etc., which is fine. So you can then, and the nice thing here is that you can take it from seed and then allow it to be tracked until it actually moves into the garden. So it then will be eventually, moved over or whatever.
Shows its full evolution from start to finish.
Yeah. So that's fine. So we could do preparing propagation.
Which is how we do it. Which is how we do it, by the way.
Yeah. So let's say we had 10 specimens, 10 plants, and then here under propagation, I'm just going to go full screen here, so we see a bit more. Propagule is seed, and then we have 10 seeds. So that field there, compared to that, this is how much you have, and this is what you started with. So that gives you the possibility to see eventually how many plants you ended up with, so you can theoretically calculate, germination.
As that row evolves, when they germinate, you might have 8. When they're planted, you might have 3. But then you can always see that you had 10 at the very beginning without having to drop down the rows for history.
Yeah. So what happens then is you save that, or we can have some treatment. I don't know.
Right. We'll have stratification, warm stratification. We'll have acid bath, different things like that.
Yeah. Medium. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm saving this, and then a day later or a month later, we're still, I don't know, we can sow it now in February, and we're still, so 2 was eaten by mice, so we're down to 8, or they had mildew, I don't know, and then you can tweak this information. That's maybe you go to perlite or something, I don't know, environment, bottom heat, like that. So, and then you save again, and then you see you get a historic kind of history here. An alternative approach could be that you introduce a new entry and use a propagation type. So the way to do that, I'm going to show you that before I go on. So if I just go undo here, and then you can then go down here in the definitions, item types, and add a new one here. So here we got planting, herbarium, propagation. You might want to call it living, for example, instead. Mm-hmm. You might want to you could also have seed as a separate one. If you want to if you have a lot of seed, if you have a seed bank really, and then they are not, maybe you preserve them and don't use them, for other things than just growing your own plants or whatever. So, yep.
And I was just mentioning we added one called a living population, because we can accession plants that exist in our forested areas that might be endangered, like some orchids or something unusual. Accession it, and then just track the population that exists in the wild. So it's not part of our collection. We don't label it. It's just something that we have reference to. We have the GPS coordinates of where it's located. So, and then if we voucher that plant from the wild, that can exist on that same accession.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a question whether so the difference here, if you're not sure, get in touch. This is typically living. Seeds, I suppose, is also living, even though it depends. That if you have living, you get the possibility to put a map marker where it is in a seed would typically don't have that. So I think we can, from a software perspective, call it preserved. And then I can load a picture. I think I have a picture somewhere here lying about quickly. If you don't, one tip here is don't try to put in a big picture. It won't like it. So 12 by 12 pixels, so it's very small. If you want a picture from us, get in touch. We might put something on the forum or something if you want to play with this. what I'm going to do for the sake of progress, I'm not going to bother with that just now. I'm just going to save it so you see it doesn't mind if there's no. But what you need to do in addition here, when you've added this, you need to then go into Management, Collections, and tell the system that you're actually going to record seeds in your system. So you go in here and then add the seed as an alternative. So I'm going to put that seed at the end here, so that it's on the end of the list. So there we go. So now you can start using it. What the third thing you need to do is to also in locations. Oops, I'm going to save that. In locations, you can also filter. What kind of items can be recorded on the different parts. So when you put in a seed fridge or whatever, you can make sure that it's only accessed when you're actually recording seeds. That's also very helpful. Here we got seed storage, for example. We might want to change that to seed, but now I have some plants there, so I want to do that at this point. Okay, going back to our example, if I now started to record my propagation as a separate one, then I get the nursery up. Great. And then, and you see here, I have only 2 types of statuses, preparing, propagation, and success. That's not great, is it? So you can tweak that as well. I'm going to start by preparing the same example, 10, and then starting with 10, propagule seed. I'm going to save that. I'm going to look at my statuses quickly. Go into item status. You see propagation. I need to add seed statuses as well, obviously. So we need one more. We have we have propagation that fails. PRF propagation failed. That's not existing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all you need, I suppose? Preparing and success? Is sown potted or something, maybe? What do you think, Greg?
I suppose you could make the sown and potted be actually living specimens since they're not seeds anymore.
Oh. Success is also living, isn't it?
I suppose so.
So the significance here is when you run reports or export things around and about, whether you want these plants to be considered part of your collection or not. So I would think here, this one is correct. And then if we add another one called PRS, propagation. Oh, no, that's sown, potted, like that. And then that is a procedure. And this one will give you, then that will help you to see, then you will see the fields like that. So might want to maybe abbreviate this actually, prop or like that. So I'm fiddly now, sorry.
What's nice with Iris is it's so customizable. You know, you can sit down and have meetings, or like I did, just basically figure it out, you know, for myself, because, you know, nobody else really cared. But you know, set the whole thing up with the fields you want and how you want to, you know, proceed, and what the timeline should be of your plants. So it's all set by you.
What you should do, Greg, is to get one of those cardboard cutout out yourself that you can put in your office and talk to. Mm-hmm. So that you can have a bit of a dialogue.
Exactly. I do talk to myself quite a bit, so there are lots of you know, conversations coming out of my office with only me in here.
Yeah, but people will think less. I think they will think it's less disturbing if you have a cardboard version of it to talk to.
Well, they are quite used to it by now. But I do find, and I think there's some scientific proof, that if you actually ask yourself questions out loud, you actually have a better thought process.
Exactly, until someone put you in a straitjacket.
Exactly. It really depends on you know, what you're asking.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, there's some really helpful hints here today. So we're preparing here. So now we see a story. We have prepared it, and now we're going to go to sown potted, and then, for example, as an example, so 3/17 March. I'm skipping it, but it doesn't matter. And I'm not going to do the treatment. We've seen that already. So, why am I doing? What is the benefit of the one or the other? Well, I think the benefit of having a separate one is that you will immediately see when you go in here that somebody has propagated an aconitum at some point. So because that propagation thing here, eventually you will get success. So you say, okay, we have success. We ended up with 4 plants, and that was today. And then you need to plant it out. So then you need to actually introduce a new qualifier, a new plant that's going out in the garden. Let's say in I don't know, Granny's garden. And then you say planted, and then we did put all 4 of them out in the same day. 7, 9, 17, 4 plants, and then you could put the reference to those propagated guys. So I'm just saying, connect these were actually the plants we propagated, so that we now put out in the garden.
Something that I do is I will. I don't use a separate propagation, but I will create a separate entry, an item line for seeds that are in storage, and I will just give them the item number 99, so that they just sort of stay out of the way, so that when I get plants that I want to plant out from that 1 through 5, they can have the qualifier, the item number 1 through 5, and then that 99 just sort of hangs out there, just like your example.
Yep.
But I will actually use different qualifiers for different purposes too. Like plants for plant sales, I will start numbering at 20, and then plants for collection are 1 through 19, unless in odd examples we need more, but
yep,
it's not that often. So I do kind of tweak the qualifier numbers for different purposes as well.
But then if you then add a new one, it will be the next available, so it will be 22
Correct.
or 23. So you're sort of stuck in manual tweaking when you do it that way, I suppose.
Yeah, correct. That's the drawback.
Yeah.
But even if you have different types, like if you have propagation and living, and you added one, the next one would have been 3 because it still counts all qualifiers. Sequentially, no matter what type.
Yeah, so you could have a policy of saying all propagation should be 20 or something, but don't stuff. Right. Then you need to go in here and do it that way.
It actually updates them if you just hit save. It updates all the numbers for history as well.
Okay, cool. Okay, we'll do. Let's.
You watch, hit save.
Hey, yeah.
Yep. And also something else I do when I record vouchers. So I have herbarium vouchers of that plant. There you go. For its item number, we stamp them with a sequential number. So it might be, like 2,415. Yeah, 4218. That's what it's stamped for its external, or its conserved number or storage number over here under references. But that also gets it out of the way, so it's down at the bottom of the list.
Yep. Well, helpful hints.
Yeah.
Okay, I see that we're sort of 3 minutes over time. We're actually a bit more, if we were going to end up at 50 minutes, but we start a bit late. So next week, next month will be a bit more structured. We have a bit sort of post sort of holiday season fatigue syndrome, I think, that in effect. But anyway, I hope this was helpful. Unless you have any final comments or things to add, Greg, or any other who's listening in.
That's me quite a bit. That thing with the item number system is something that I found useful as I went along, just to keep things organized.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But you're right. If you were to add one more item to that without specifying which number, it would be 4219. So.
Yep. Yeah, you're sort of breaking. So just one caveat here: if you have set up your system with alphabetic qualifiers A, B, and C, you could do the same by typing A and B and whatnot. It will eventually stop at ZZ, I believe. So it won't go, which is gives you room for, I don't know how many qualifiers, 58 times 58 or something. I don't know. It's quite a lot. So yeah. No, how many letters out of the alphabet? Sorry.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet.
26, yeah. I'm Norwegian, so we have more letters, so that's the problem.
but that's squirrely bits in them.
Yeah, and if you're, it will be literally Latin letters, so keep that in mind if you're listening in from some other part of the world. So we did a cut of qualifiers in Hebrew, but that will be 676 different plants in one accession. Yep.
Right.
Okay, great. I think we'll stop there. Thank you very much, and see you in a month's time, hopefully.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.